What was their motive? How did the disciples, 12 ordinary people, pull off such a hoax? I mean, you make up a lie and you get something from it. You swindle people, some kind of, Ponzi scheme. But these people were always, the early Christians were noted for constantly giving to the poor. They were picking up aborted babies or abandoned babies. They were feeding the hungry. They were known for their charity. Christians were the first people who developed hospitals and schools of learning for people who couldn't afford education. They didn't have public schools throughout history. Christians just went out and started schools so people could learn. Some of the earliest physicians that traveled and took a medicine were Christians. Why would these people be willing to die for a lie and then do all this good stuff for a lie? At least get something from it. Get some money, get richer. Now, I know that there's preachers and Christians today using religion to get rich, but they're so small in percentage of all the good works that are happening globally by Catholics and Christians and Orthodox in the name of Jesus. There's a bunch of Mother Teresa's out there that you'll never know about. There's people right now in Haiti on the ground level, Christians, starting orphanages. You know what sociologists say? You know the people who are doing all the good stuff in Haiti on the ground level? They're all mainly evangelical Baptist people who just kind of given up 6 months of their lives, 3 months of their lives, going back, starting businesses and orphans. What motivates people to sacrifice a portion of their life for people who can never pay them back? You do missions in Haiti or Liberia, where I'm from, you'll never get paid back. You do real ministry for the Lord, you will never get paid back. And that's why some people can't serve the Lord, because they're always thinking about what they're going to get, and to volunteer, oh wow, there's no return on investment. What am I going to get from showing up early, pastor, to pray for people in the pews? There's no paycheck. There's no immediate response. There's no immediate glamour, especially when it comes to Jesus and Christianity. We don't have the notoriety of the Boys and Girls Club to put you in the newspaper, the Miami Herald. You just be some little servant of Jesus in a small church serving people, but your treasures will be in heaven. Why would thousands of people immediately convert if Jesus didn't actually rise from the dead? Why would they make up the resurrection story if Jesus turned out to be a fraud? Or he said this about 3 people. Why would the disciples make themselves look bad in the Gospels? How did Saul of Tarsus, the chief persecutor of Christians, convert to become the Apostle Paul, the chief follower of Jesus, if he didn't really have an encounter with the risen Jesus? How could a person who was killing Christians turn around and write 2/3 of the New Testament and be one of the greatest missionaries that ever existed? How could the disciples even steal the body in the first place? You better make sure Jesus was well protected in that tomb. That guy was a threat. Thirdly, the non-biblical text, I want you to consider a man by the name of Flavius Josephus. He was a Jewish historian. Non-biblical meaning, are there references about the resurrection that are outside of the Bible? Josephus, in his book, The Antiquities of the Jews, written around 93 to 94 AD, includes 2 references to Jesus. This guy worked for the Emperor Caesar. He was not a Christian. He was a Jewish historian, a Roman Jewish historian, Flavius Josephus. And this is what he wrote. Now, there was about the time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man. At this time, Jesus' movement was already getting very popular. And there was a lot of friction in the Jewish communities about these Jewish Christians, these Messianic Jews. For he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ, and when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. For he appeared to them alive again the 3rd day. He's just recounting what these people say, these Christians. As the divine prophets had foretold these, and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians, so named from him, are not extinct at this day. So as a historian, Flavius Josephus says, look, this is what the Christians are saying, because at this point the Jesus movement was growing, and they were claiming that their Messiah had risen from the dead, and they were willing to do anything for their faith. Another historian by the name of Cornelius Tacitus, you'll study him when you study Greco-Roman Empire history, the greatest historian of ancient Rome. This is what he wrote. Consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians. He writes about how Nero went around killing Christians, called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, look what he writes, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus, and a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty, then upon their information an immersed multitude was convicted. Not so much of the crime of firing the city. Nero claimed that the Christians put the city of Rome, they arsoned the city, and he went around using this to kill Christians. As of a hatred against mankind, mockery of every sort was added to their deaths. Covered with the skins of beasts, they were torn by dogs and perished, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt, to serve as a nightly illumination when daylight had expired. This is how he killed the Christians. He burned them at night, so they served as torches. Nero offered his gardens for the spectacle and was exhibiting a show in the circus, while he mingled with the people in the dress of a charioteer or stood aloft in a car. Other non-biblical references: Emperor Trajan, Emperor Hadrian, Pliny the Younger, the Jewish Talmud. All these were written within the first century. They all reference Jesus and the Jesus movement and the crucifixion and the resurrection. And the last point I want to make about the four groups is change lives. Here's a picture of Christians from Africa, from America, from India, from Russia. The fourth proof that Jesus rose from the dead is the fact that his power is still changing lives. From every tongue and every tribe and every nation for the last 2,000 years. And then the last point I want to leave you with is the ultimate significance of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It gives us power over life. Philippians 3, verse 10, as our sisters read, he says, I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of sharing in his suffering. The ultimate significance of the resurrection is this, y'all. You can study it, you can believe it historically, but when it comes down to your life, you need to understand it gives you power over life. Paul says, I want to know the power of his resurrection in my life. And you can know it. Secondly, it gives you power